Greetings, this is the man who pretends to be Charles Darwin. Actually, I am a retired science professor. I retired in the year 2022, and by that time I had been teaching college science uninterrupted for 47 years. I started college in 1975, and I started graduate school in 1979. And 1979 was when I got this t-shirt for the Fachrie-Bazaz Plant Ecology Laboratory. That was a long time ago. That's why it doesn't fit very well. But why did I want to be a professor? What was the reason for it? Well, my reason was that I loved nature so much. I loved the stories and the marvel of nature so much that I wanted to spend my entire life telling people about it and to explore the natural world, make new discoveries, and get paid for it. Not much, but at least get paid enough to live on while I was enjoying my life making these discoveries. But you see, while I was doing that, I was too busy professoring to actually ask why there are professors. Why do we have higher education? Well, if you ask a professor why we have higher education, he or she will always say, to prepare students for the world. Well, that sounds noble, doesn't it? The fact that it's true doesn't mean that it isn't trite. And we would do assessment. We would have to do assessment reports that we would send up to the state level to prove that the taxpayer money was being used responsibly. And of course, that's what we had to do. But what did we actually measure for those reports? Well, we sent in lists of students who had gotten jobs. And many of those jobs paid very well. So one of the ways of assessing our success was student income after graduation. That's nice, that's part of it. But you see, that's not enough, because students will not just have to earn a living, but will also have to run the economy and to run the world, politically and also environmentally. Because we have to take care of, they have to take care of the earth. Because if the earth is not taken care of, then there will be no basis for our economy. Our economy will collapse and life would come to an end as we know it. David Orr's book, right here, it's this collection of essays known as Earth in Mind. It's now a couple of decades old, but I've enjoyed looking at it again. He addressed this question: why do we have higher education? And he made the case that all education should be, to a greater or lesser extent, environmental education. That there is nothing that we could possibly study that is entirely disconnected from environmental issues. Now, he even said that the architecture of our buildings should reflect our integration into the systems of nature. For instance, one of his peeves was indoor classes. And that's where almost all classes are now. Students sitting in chairs, looking up at the professor, maybe taking notes, maybe not, maybe even being awake, maybe not. I have seen some really creative ways that students have of pretending to be awake when they really aren't. But anyway, he would say, and I think he was correct, that indoor classes are usually boring. Now, in Oklahoma, where I taught much of this time, it was usually too hot or too windy or too rainy to be outdoors for class. But when possible, it's better to be outdoors. Isn't this, right here in this marvel of chlorophyll, isn't this better than being inside of a classroom? And so I would take my students outside, even if it wasn't essential. Of course, for field trips, you have to go outside to see the plants and the animals, but I would take them outside even if it wasn't necessary. For instance, instead of just telling them about the evolutionary timeline, starting 3.5 billion years ago and going up to the present, I would take them out to a sidewalk that I had measured off so that they could walk along the sidewalk and experience the passage of time during evolution. And this was a good thing. It impressed upon them, they seemed to enjoy it, that about 80% of the history of the Earth was bacteria. So anyway, I did that. I even took my biology classes out on the patio, even if it was just the last couple of minutes of class, to have them act out the process of mitosis. I know they enjoyed it. I think maybe that helped them to understand it better. But you see, he also said that the buildings themselves should express our integration with the natural world. For instance, you can design buildings that recycle all of their own water. You can design buildings that generate more energy than they consume. And so that's what we should do as colleges. Now, when I was a professor, I tried to do those things. For instance, I tried to help to create an environmental curriculum. And I wasn't the only one. Randy, if you're watching this video, thank you for your help in this. But it didn't work because there was only about 3 or 4 of us on the faculty who were interested in doing this. Everybody else was so busy they couldn't take the time to think about it. So another thing is that when a new classroom building was being built, I thought, here's an opportunity for a green roof. And I took that idea to the administration, and they did not say that's a stupid idea, but they said, we're trying to do a bond issue for the building, and if we put in the cost of a green roof, even though it will pay off in the long run, even though a green roof will be cheaper in the long run, we can't put it into the bond issue right now. It was too expensive. But you see, even David Orr could not do it. Perhaps the most famous environmental educator, and he was at Oberlin College, which is a liberal arts college, one of the most famous. It's called the Harvard of the West. Ohio used to be the West. And even he couldn't get things done there the way he would like. I remember a talk he gave in 1999 in which he said that the library at Oberlin College had one light switch. Either all of the lights were on or they were all off. And for security reasons, of course, they had to be on at night. So there was many, many hours when all of the lights were on and nobody was in the building. So that's a stupid waste of energy. He couldn't do anything about it. At least by that time, he hadn't been able to. Another thing that Orr talks about is tenure. What is tenure for? Why should professors have tenure? Well, the idea is that they could try new things and new ideas without the fear of reprisal. They could try out new things even if they ended up not working, which they wouldn't most of the time. But, well, some of us tried. I tried environmental curriculum. I tried green buildings. It didn't work, but I was able to try that without fear of jeopardizing my job because I had tenure. But most of my colleagues were either so busy or maybe they just settled down into the academic life with tenure, not having to worry about any of those things. Well, now I really am retired. I'm telling you that I don't have a solution to this problem, but maybe some of you out there watching this video will be able to come up with a solution. Good luck to you. This is the man who pretends to be Charles Darwin. Tally ho.